Hello and welcome, dear subscribers. Thank you for joining me today. Well, folks, hold on to your hats, because South Africa's political landscape just got hit by a tremor, and its name is Judge M. Scher. On August 2025, the Western Cape Equality Court dropped a bombshell verdict that has everyone talking, from the streets of Soweto to the halls of Parliament. The court found Julius Malema guilty of hate speech. This wasn't just another headline. It was a moment years in the making, a legal showdown between constitutional values and one of the country's most provocative voices. The ruling has sent ripples across the nation. The case hinged on a speech from October 2022, whose words have echoed ever since. People have debated the line between political rhetoric and dangerous incitement. To understand the gravity of this court case, you first have to understand the man at its center. Julius Malema is not just any politician, he is a force of nature in South African politics. Rising to fame as a leader of the ANC Youth League, he was known for radical statements and an ability to mobilize crowds. After being expelled from the ANC, he founded the Economic Freedom Fighters in 2013, dressed in their signature red berets and overalls. The EFF positioned themselves as champions of the poor and marginalized, demanding radical economic transformation. Malema's style is confrontational, charismatic, unapologetically populist, making him a hero to many and a villain to others. The speech that landed him in legal hot water was delivered on October 16, 2022, at the EFF's 3rd Provincial People's Assembly in the Western Cape. He told the crowd, "You must never be scared to kill." When Judge Mark Scher handed down his judgment, he didn't mince words. The court's findings were clear and direct. The core of the ruling was that Malema's statements violated Section 10 of the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, the Equality Act. This law is a cornerstone of South Africa's post-apartheid framework. Judge Scher highlighted that the words constituted an exhortation to kill white males who were involved in the Brackenfell High School incident. The judge connected the speech directly to a real-world event and a specific group of people. The remarks were not protected under free speech because they promoted and propagated hatred. In the court's view, telling a crowd, "You must never be scared to kill," moved far beyond acceptable political discourse. It entered the dangerous realm of incitement. The court dismissed the claim the remarks were merely metaphorical revolutionary theory. Context, the judge said, was everything. When you are a leader with immense influence, you cannot be careless with words that could lead to real-world harm. This verdict sets a powerful precedent for public figures in South Africa. It reinforces the idea that with great power comes great responsibility. The court made clear political freedom and robust debate are not absolute. There is a line. After the guilty verdict was announced, many were probably expecting a dramatic sentence. Would Malema face jail time? The answer was more nuanced and symbolic. The court did not hand down a prison sentence or criminal punishment. Instead, it issued a declaratory order, a formal statement that the speech constituted hate speech. It is a legal branding, a permanent mark on the record. This finding alone is a major blow to Malema's political standing, and can be used in future legal or political proceedings. The court ordered Malema and the EFF jointly and severally liable for the complainant's legal costs. Legal fees can be astronomical. This carries a real financial sting. The judgment focused on the merits, whether the speech was hate speech. What remedies or sanctions to apply will be decided separately. Complainants, including the Democratic Alliance, could use this verdict to argue for other sanctions, or pursue action in Parliament's ethics committees or other legal avenues. So while there's no jail time today, the story of consequences is far from over. For Malema and the EFF, the lack of prison time is a small victory in a larger defeat. If you thought Julius Malema and the EFF would take this verdict lying down, you haven't been paying attention to South African politics. Almost immediately after the judgment, the party announced its intention to appeal. In a strongly worded statement, the EFF confirmed they would take the matter to the Supreme Court of Appeal. This is a standard legal move, but also a political statement. It signals they do not accept the court's interpretation and will fight in higher courts. They will argue words like kill and eliminate were metaphorical, targeting systems, not people, not literal calls to violence. Their appeal is both legal defense and a bid to protect their style of politics. The Supreme Court of Appeal must re-examine the evidence, the arguments, and the law. It must weigh freedom of expression against the prohibition of hate speech. It's a high-stakes gamble. If they win, it will be vindication. If they lose, the guilty verdict is strengthened. South Africa will be watching closely. The appeal moves this debate to a higher court with national consequences. As soon as the verdict was out, one party was quick to celebrate: the Democratic Alliance. The DA welcomed the judgment as a victory for constitutional values. The DA, a key complainant, has long been one of Malema's most vocal critics. For them, this was legal and political vindication. These two parties represent starkly different visions for South Africa. The DA sees the verdict as proof the courts agree. They announced they will explore further action to enforce consequences against Malema, including possible parliamentary ethics proceedings. The DA intends to translate the verdict into political leverage. A legal ruling becomes a political weapon. Responses from other parties were more varied, but the DA's was loudest. The ANC offered a more measured response, caught between history and constitutional duty. They see this ruling as a beginning, not an end. They will use it to hold Malema accountable as an MP. The verdict gives them a significant tool in their ongoing political war with the EFF. Expect them to use it. This verdict doesn't just matter at home, it echoes internationally. It shapes how other nations view South African leaders. Earlier in 2025, Malema was twice denied entry to the United Kingdom. The UK Home Office cited his public statements as the reason. This was not an administrative error, it was a judgment about risk. Other governments monitor rhetoric that risks inciting hatred or violence. The UK's decision provides context for the Equality Court's finding. A Western government concluded his presence was not conducive to the public good. This can make travel and international engagement harder for Malema and the EFF. It risks isolating them from mainstream international circles. At home, opponents will use this narrative to question their fitness to govern. Combined with the travel ban, it strengthens a powerful storyline. Other countries will now have an official ruling to reference. Where before they relied on reports, they now have a court judgment. The verdict will almost certainly reinforce global perceptions of Malema as a controversial figure. For the EFF, this creates a major political and diplomatic challenge. At its heart, the Equality Court's ruling was about one thing: drawing a line. In a democracy, free speech is sacred, but not limitless. The court's task was to decide where that line lies, and whether Malema crossed it. The judge found he had, by a significant margin. Core tenets: incitement of harm and propagation of hatred. The court saw the speech as a direct call to action that could lead to violence. Given South Africa's history, words carry immense weight. Allowing incendiary rhetoric to go unchallenged risks tearing social fabric. The court asked, would an ordinary reasonable listener interpret these words as instruction to use violence? The court concluded, yes, and that interpretation was central to the finding. A leader's words matter. Leaders cannot be careless when public safety is at stake. This verdict reinforces legal limits for public discourse. The law prevents speech that demonizes or targets groups based on race or ethnicity. The Equality Act exists to foster non-racialism and mutual respect. The court has said, enough is enough. Leaders must speak with responsibility. Words have consequences. This landmark ruling leaves South Africa at a crossroads, forcing a national reflection on fundamental principles. The verdict throws the delicate balance between freedom of expression and prohibition of hate speech into sharp relief. On one hand, democracy thrives on open and fearless debate. The EFF will argue the appeal defends political freedom and dissent. They claim the ruling stifles legitimate dissent. But South Africa's history shows how hateful rhetoric can dehumanize and divide. So the Constitution limits speech when it incites violence or hatred. The right to dignity and public safety must be protected from speech that threatens social cohesion. This verdict asserts that legal standards exist for public discourse. As the case heads to the Supreme Court of Appeal, the nation watches. The outcome could redefine political speech for a generation. Will the higher court uphold the line or expand what is acceptable? Either decision will reshape public debate. This case is about the kind of country South Africa wants to be. Can it protect minorities and public safety while allowing robust debate? There are no easy answers.